So my name is Dr. Corina Weir. I'm a psychologist by background. I originally trained in Scotland in the UK, and I have my psychologist qualification in health psychology. So I originally worked in the Department of Paediatric Psychology in Scotland in our National Health Service. So I was working with children and adolescents who had physical health conditions and were also suffering from mental health difficulties. So I was supporting them. I was delivering things like cognitive behavioural therapy and motivational interviewing to support these young people. I then kind of took a sidestep and went into academia for a few years and worked at a university in Scotland, and I moved to Houston, Texas about 5 years ago, just before the COVID pandemic. And at that point, I took a bit of a career change, and I now work for a company specialising in neuropsychological testing for people who are people who suffer from ADHD. So I'm still within psychology. I just kind of took a bit of a turn when I came to the US, and I have two young children now as well, a young girl and a young boy. And I think that's what really kind of led me into wanting to work with Bloomster, having two young children, knowing kind of what young people experience in this day and age. I really wanted to do more work that was around supporting young people and also supporting parents and caregivers with giving tools and resources around how do we help our children become more emotionally intelligent? How do we help them overall with their social, emotional, physical growth here? What can we do as parents to support them? So I read about Bloomster, I seen this work come up, and I thought, this looks great. This is exactly what I would love to do, what I really want to do, what I have experience in. And that's why I worked on developing this course to help young children with their emotional regulation. Yeah, I definitely do. I think holistic learning skills for children and young people is crucial. And I think experience in schools is different, isn't it, everywhere you go, depending upon where you are in the world. I think, there is a focus and a prioritisation on it in education, where there's certainly understanding that there's a need for this, but I think it's quite complex to integrate that within today's education system. Teachers are overworked already. They have a lot to manage, a lot to deal with, and I think, trying to bring in holistic learning is a priority. However, in my experience and my understanding, it's not always done as well as it can be. And I think also there's a focus on the education system, but I think also as parents, caregivers, as people working with young people in any capacity, I believe it's also our duty to support children with holistic learning skills, which can be difficult because I think for a lot of people, especially in my generation, it's not something that's prioritised when I was young. The word holistic isn't something I think I learned until I went to university, and I still think the word holistic is spoken about in many different ways, but I think a lot of people are still thinking, what does even holistic mean? But for me, it's really just about thinking about the whole child and everything that's going on around them, not just what's going on for them, but everything socially, everything educational, intellectually that's going on for them, and considering the whole child. And I think if you don't consider the whole child and what's going on for them, you're kind of missing things. It's a kind of misservice to that child, because it's really crucial to consider all of that, because all of that is going to affect our children's well-being, our children's emotional regulation, our children's mental health. All this is really important. So I think that in today's world, I believe it's my duty as a parent, and I'm fortunate with my background to be able to say that, but it's something that I'm definitely having to convince my husband about. He comes from a very engineering background. He would admit himself that he's maybe not emotionally intelligent or has the best emotional vocabulary for many different reasons. He comes from a very different background to me, from an entirely different continent, where things are very different. He's from Argentina, I'm from the UK, engineering, psychology. There's many differences between us. So I think even for him, we're working together to become more emotionally literate, to become more understanding of how we can best support our children and consider that holistic approach. How can we work with the school here as well to ensure that the teachers and us are communicating to support our young person? You know, how can we work within our community as well? How can we support the young people in our community, be that our friendship groups, be that the other communities that we're involved in, which I think are extremely important? How can we work with our communities and develop these skills in our children to essentially try and equip them as best as we can to manage today, you know, to manage everything that they have going on, and to hopefully support them here and support their mental health and well-being. So yeah, I think in a nutshell it's absolutely crucial, and I think it's a role for many of us to have, because I think our education system currently for many different reasons isn't able to do it as well as I think we would like.